What if one tiny move of your hand costs you everything? Not a crash, not a blown engine, just your hand, moving 2 inches, on live TV in front of millions of people. And 3 of the biggest names in NASCAR are commenting in real time. That is exactly what happened to Noah Gragson at the 2026 Daytona 500. And once you hear the full story, you will not believe how preventable this was. Before we get into what Gragson did, you need to understand why this rule even exists. For years during the next-gen era, every driver at superspeedways had a little trick. When they went out on a qualifying lap, they would slide their hand up against the small opening between the A-pillar and the window net, the gap where fresh air flows into the cockpit. By covering that gap with their hand, they could slightly change how air moved around the car, a tiny aerodynamic advantage, fractions of a second. It sounds small, but at Daytona, fractions of a second decide everything. And here is the kicker. Noah was wearing bright white gloves. In a dark cockpit, against a black window net, those white gloves were like a neon sign for the NASCAR officials and the TV cameras. He didn't even give himself a chance to hide it. The trick was so common that drivers started getting creative with it. Joey Logano even got caught using specially designed webbed gloves to make the air trick work better.
I'm a little mad I didn't come up with this idea. This is pretty great. Right there's a web between the pointy finger and the thumb, making it kind of block more air. So, surprisingly,
NASCAR penalized him for it, but the hand trick itself, it stayed legal until 2026. Heading into this season, NASCAR rewrote the rule book. The new rule was clear. Once your car leaves pit road on a qualifying attempt, your hands cannot be used to redirect air. No touching the window net. No blocking air from entering the cockpit. No redirecting airflow from the window opening. Nothing. The penalty? Loss of your qualifying time. Gone. Deleted. Like it never happened. NASCAR even wrote it out word for word in the official rulebook so nobody could claim they did not know. Teams were told. Crew chiefs were told. Drivers were told. So when cars started rolling out for Daytona 500 qualifying on February 11th, every single driver knew this rule existed. Every driver except one. The moment. Noah Gragson pulled out of pit road in the number 4 front row motorsports Ford. He got up to speed. He hit the banking. And then, on live television, in front of every Fox Sports camera at Daytona International Speedway, he raised his hand and pressed it right against the window net opening. The same move that was now banned. The Fox broadcast caught it immediately. Clint Bowyer said it first. You can see it right there. Kevin Harvick did not hold back. You gotta know the rules. That is just an error on the driver's part. As a driver, you gotta know what you are responsible for. While Kevin Harvick and Clint Bowyer were calling him out on the Fox broadcast, NASCAR legend Dale Earnhardt Jr. took to social media to sum it up perfectly. He posted, "This is the most Noah thing ever. Don't touch that stove, it is hot. Touches the stove, gets burnt. Says, yes, it is hot." The internet went into an instant frenzy. The memes were everywhere before the qualifying session even ended, because Dale was 100% right. Gragson crossed the finish line. His time flashed up on the board, 49.504 seconds. That lap would have buried him deep in the qualifying order anyway. He was never going to win the pole. But it did not matter. NASCAR officials had already seen the footage. The time was wiped, disallowed. The very first driver in NASCAR history to be penalized under the new 2026 air deflection rule. And just like that, Gragson went from having a lap time to having nothing. He would now start at the very back of his duel race the next night. The duels are the 2 qualifying races that set the starting lineup for the Daytona 500. Starting last is the worst possible spot. Now here is where it gets even more interesting. Because Gragson is a charter driver, his team owns a guaranteed spot in the Daytona 500. He could not be bumped out of the race no matter what. So the penalty only hurt his starting position, not his race entry. But you still have to wonder, what was going through his head the moment he heard that news? He did not hide from it. He walked straight up to the Fox Sports 1 microphone and said exactly what happened. "I completely forgot about that rule. That one is on me." He paused, and then he kept going. "I feel like an idiot for putting my hand up. I am dumb for that. No excuses, no blaming the crew, no claiming confusion about the rule book. He owned it fully. And honestly, that matters. Because in a sport where drivers rarely admit mistakes, Gragson stood there and called himself out in front of the entire NASCAR world. He also said something that was either very relaxed or a little bit desperate, depending on how you look at it. He said the Daytona 500 is such a long race that starting position barely matters. He was not entirely wrong. The 500 is 200 laps. Cars move all over the field, but starting last in your duel after a penalty you gave yourself, that stings no matter what you say into a microphone. Gragson went out the next night and raced his duel from the back. He worked his way through traffic, battled, scrapped, and finished 12th. Not spectacular, but not embarrassing either. He got himself into a decent spot for the big race. Then came Sunday, February 15th, the 68th running of the Daytona 500. And here is the twist nobody fully predicted. The race was going smoothly through the first 123 laps. Then it happened, the big one. 20 cars got collected in a massive wreck at the front of the field. It was absolute carnage, taking out big names and championship favorites like Joey Logano and Chase Elliott. Drivers who had run clean all day were suddenly watching their cars get torn apart. Gragson didn't just survive the chaos, he thrived in it. Despite starting from the very back because of his own mistake, he sliced through the field and finished in 11th place. Just one spot shy of a top 10 finish in the biggest race of the year. For a guy who essentially deleted his own qualifying lap, that was a massive recovery. Meanwhile, the man who won the whole thing was Tyler Reddick, driving for 23XI Racing, co-owned by Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin. Reddick made a last lap pass to take the lead right at the finish. He only led one single lap the entire race, and that lap was the one that counted. This wasn't just a win for Reddick, it was the first ever Daytona 500 victory for Michael Jordan's 23XI Racing team. After years of chasing the great American race, his airness finally had a Harley J. Earl trophy for his collection. Jordan was seen jumping in celebration on pit road, 6 NBA championships, and somehow the Daytona 500 sent him to another level entirely. Now think back to Gragson, that one little hand movement, 2 inches, live on TV, instant deletion. It was the first penalty under a brand new rule. NASCAR wanted to send a message that the air deflection era was over, and Gragson handed them the perfect example on a silver platter. It wasn't just about a deleted lap, it was a warning shot to the entire garage. And yet Gragson still made the race, still finished the duel, still drove 500 miles at Daytona. The question nobody is asking out loud is this: with a rule this strict and a penalty this public, how many other drivers spent the next few weeks double-checking their own habits before the next superspeedway race? Because Gragson may have been the first, but NASCAR made it very clear he would not be the last they were watching. The stove is still hot, and now everybody knows it.